Hello everyone! We are all finished with the War of 1812 and we are starting a new domain today. Our domain that we're starting is going to be about science, specifically about different cycles in nature. We are going to be learning a lot of cool things in this domain. Some things you may have already learned a little bit about in first grade. We'll talk about things like day and night, the months of the year, seasons, and the life cycle of plants and animals. A cycle is something that moves in a circle. So if I start facing you guys, and I slowly turn, and turn, and turn, I have created one cycle. I have spun around once. If I keep going, 2 cycles, and 3 cycles, and 4 cycles. Most cycles are continuous, or they keep going. The cycle that we're going to learn about very first today is the cycle of day and night. The cycle of day and night depends a lot on how the Earth moves. Take a minute and think. Can you feel the Earth moving right now? No, we can't feel the Earth moving, but the Earth is constantly moving in a cycle. It moves in 2 different ways. I'm going to grab my globe here to help. In the Earth, we'll talk about this in our read aloud too, there is an invisible line that goes kind of sideways through the Earth. This is called its axis. One way that the Earth moves is it rotates on its axis. So when the Earth moves like this, it is rotating on its axis. This is a rotation. While the Earth is spinning or rotating around the axis, it is also moving around the sun. So if I have this light as my sun, the Earth, while it's spinning, I don't have enough hands to do both. While the Earth is rotating on its axis, it is also revolving or moving around the sun. So it's spinning around the sun and it's rotating on its axis. Around the sun is a revolution, and spinning on its axis is a rotation. We'll talk about those 2 words a little bit more in our read aloud today, but first we need to go over our vocabulary words. Cycle. A cycle is the period of time it takes to complete a sequence of events. The life cycle of a frog includes the egg, the tadpole, and the adult frog. Axis. An axis is a real or imaginary central line around which an object spins. The axis of Earth is an imaginary line that goes through the north and south poles. Rotating. Rotating means turning around a central point. As I pedal my bike, the tires are rotating to keep me moving. Thrive. Thrive means to grow and develop well. With such an abundance of green grass and clover to eat, the sheep will thrive. Stage. Stage can mean a particular time in the growth of something, like the stages in a frog's life that we can see on the left side of our picture. But it can also mean a raised platform on which people dance, sing, and act. We can see this meaning on the right side of our picture. A cycle is like a circle that goes around and around. Just like there are circular objects that go around and around, there are also many natural cycles that occur on Earth that happen again and again too. A cycle is a sequence of events that repeats itself again and again. Just like you can pick any part of the circle to be the starting point, we choose one part of each natural cycle to be our starting point. This makes it easier to talk about all of the parts of the cycle. The most important thing to remember is that cycles always come back to the chosen starting point before starting over again. All living things are part of a cycle of life that keeps going around and around. What does this mean? It means that almost all living things are born, grow, reproduce, or make babies, and eventually die. The reproduction of living things is one way that life continues on Earth. A life cycle includes each stage that a living thing goes through from birth to adult. You will hear a lot more about life cycles later in this domain. First, there are other cycles in nature that make life on Earth possible too. Earth spins around and around, a never-ending cycle that shapes everything we do here on Earth. The Earth is constantly moving, even though we can't feel it. As Earth turns around, part of it faces the sun, and part of it faces away from the sun. Remember, the sun is a star that provides light, heat, and energy for the Earth. Can you guess what cycle happens when our part of the Earth faces the sun and then rotates to face away from the sun? Did you guess the cycle of daytime and nighttime? The cycle of daytime and nighttime is the result of our planet rotating or spinning around on an imaginary line called an axis. We can see an axis in our picture here. It is the line that goes through the globe. What's an axis? Well, imagine a spinning basketball turning around and around. Then try to picture an imaginary line running through the basketball from the bottom to the top. That imaginary line is what we call an axis. Try to imagine an invisible line running through your body from your head to your feet, a central line or axis around which you can spin. Earth's axis passes through the north and south poles. It takes 24 hours for Earth to rotate or spin one time on its axis. 24 hours is 1 day. Rotation is the movement of Earth on its axis. This controls the cycle of daytime and nighttime. Earth takes 24 hours to turn or rotate back to the position from which it started. Rotation takes us from daytime to nighttime and back to the very beginning of daytime again, before the cycle starts over. As Earth rotates, light from the sun falls on one half of Earth. We call this daytime. The other half of Earth is in darkness, and we call this nighttime. As Earth continues to rotate, the part of Earth that had sunlight moves into darkness, and the part that had darkness moves into the sunlight. This is a never-ending cycle of daytime and nighttime. The cycle of daytime and nighttime begins with sunrise in the early morning. Sunlight hits our planet and moves across Earth from east to west. When we see the sun rising in the east in the morning and settling in the west in the evening, it is because of the Earth rotating or spinning. For people on Earth, it makes sense to say that the sun rises in the morning. Each morning at dawn, the sun appears in the sky on the horizon. The horizon is the line we see in the distance where the ground meets the sky. At dawn, some people say, "Look, the sun is coming up." Is the sun really moving or coming up? No, the sun does not move in the sky. The sun stays in the same spot. What's happening is that the Earth is moving, but it looks like the sun is moving to us here on Earth. This first appearance of the sun above the eastern horizon is called sunrise. Over the course of the day, the sun appears to move across the sky, gradually following its path from east to west. In the evening, the sun sets in the west. Ever so slowly, it appears lower in the sky and disappears below the horizon. That's when people say the sun is going down. Is the sun really moving down? No, we can't see it anymore because the Earth is moving or rotating away from the sun. The disappearance of the sun below the western horizon is called sunset. Based on what we can see from where we live on Earth, it seems sensible to say that the sun moves across the sky each day, rising or moving up in the east, and setting or sinking down in the west. But that's not actually true. It is the daily rotation or spin of the Earth that makes the sun appear to rise and set each day. This daily rotation explains why there is always daytime and nighttime on Earth. As it spins, certain parts of Earth's surface face the sun, receiving its heat and light. When it is light on one side of the Earth, it is dark on the other side. So if it is daytime where you are right now, then on the other side of the Earth it is nighttime, and the children there are sound asleep. And when you are nestled in your bed tonight, children on the other side of the planet will be waking up to a bright new day. How does the cycle of daytime and nighttime affect living things on Earth? The sun is extremely important to life on Earth. All plants, animals, and people rely on the sun in order to thrive or grow well. The sun's energy gives life to plants, which in turn nourish animals and people. When you nourish something, you are providing it with what it needs to grow. The sun's heat keeps the surface of Earth warm enough for plants and animals to survive. In the next few lessons, we will learn all about how the sun affects living things throughout the 4 seasons. Alright, my friends, remind me, what cycle in nature did we learn about today? You've got it, the cycle of day and nighttime. What is a cycle? Right, a cycle is a sequence of events that happen again and again and again, over and over. We learned about the day and nighttime cycle today. What causes day and night on Earth? Is day and night caused by the way the Earth moves around the sun or revolves around the sun, or is it caused by the way it rotates on its axis? It is caused by the rotation of the Earth, not the revolution around the sun. So if we shine our sun on the Earth, at different points, different sections of the Earth are facing the sun. So over here where the light is shining is daytime, but this side that's facing away from the sun's light experiences nighttime. It is the Earth's rotation on its axis that causes day and night. Turn to the person who is helping you today and tell them, what do you think if the Earth did not rotate on its axis? If the Earth did not rotate on its axis, how do you think life would be different? What do you think would be different? When you are finished talking to whoever is helping you today, we've got one more thing to do. I'm going to jump on my computer and show you what that looks like. Okay, go ahead and get that assignment opened in Kami. It should look like this. At the bottom there's a letter for your parents explaining what we'll be learning about for the next couple of days. But for now, we're going to focus on the actual assignment. There are only 2 questions on today's assignment. Right now, I want you to make a guess or a prediction on both of those questions. Our first one says, when it is daytime for me, my town is facing toward the sun or away from the sun. And the second says, when it is nighttime for me, my town is facing toward the sun or away from the sun. Daytime on number 1, nighttime on number 2. Go ahead and answer those two questions. I'm going to do an experiment where we'll pretend that my globe is the Earth and a flashlight is the sun. When I'm done, I'll have you double check your answers and then turn it in. All right, my friends, let's see if your predictions were correct. We are going to act out the rotation of the Earth on its axis to show day and night time. On my globe, I know it's a little bit hard to see in the video, we've got the United States. I have marked about where Utah and Spanish Fork are at with this purple Post-it note. I'm going to have it stick up just a little bit more so you can see it a little better. Remember, this pole doesn't actually exist on Earth. It's an imaginary line called the axis that the Earth rotates around. I've got my sun over here. I'm going to start with Spanish Fork, Utah, facing towards my sun. When the sun is shining directly on Spanish Fork, do you think it's daytime here? What if we rotate our globe on its axis? Spanish Fork is now right here. I'll follow it with my finger. Now Spanish Fork is right here. Is it facing our sun anymore? No. If we are not facing the sun, do you think we can see it in the sky? Probably not. If we're not facing the sun, if it's on the opposite side of the globe, we wouldn't be able to see it in the sky where we're at. But if we keep rotating, eventually Spanish Fork right here is facing the sun once more, making it daytime. Daytime is when we are facing the sun during the Earth's rotation on its axis. When the Earth has completed one single rotation around its axis, 24 hours have passed. So it takes the Earth 24 hours to rotate once on the axis and end up in the same place it was. So now we're back facing the sun. That is why one day is 24 hours long. Go ahead and check your papers and make sure you've got the right answer on them now.